Hello everyone. Welcome to another part of What If Deku ran an orphanage. If you enjoy the story, please like, subscribe, and share the video. It really helps me out. I did not write the story. The original writer is Kyodon. Please go support them. Now let us dive in. KS Energy. I always knew that quirks had to be powered by something, but never in my life did I think I would actually be able to work with it. Oh, the possibilities I await. Gotta start this offer properly. I'm an official employee now, so gotta do things properly. My name is Futaba Akira, and I'm in charge of studying cognitive matter here at the Midoriya Foundation's scientific branch. Now with the introductions done, onto the good stuff. Now back to KS Energy. From what we can tell, it seems that KS Energy is the source of power behind quirks. Of course, quirks are the thing that brought cognitive matter science into existence, so if we can master the power behind quirks, there's no doubt that I can make huge progress in my field. And by that I mean I already have. Hee. Now you may have heard of the former pro-hero Saber, aka Saibura. Her quirk allows her to manifest any sword that she has seen from her own dimension. A dimension thought to be a manifestation of her own imagination. This means, of course, that the swords she shoots out are mental constructs. However, studying them is rather difficult. Her swords cannot exist in this dimension for long. This actually lines up with Mom's notes about cognitive matter only being able to exist in our dimension for a short time. But something was a bit off. The swords are able to exist in our reality far longer than what Mom's notes indicate. So of course my first task was figuring out why that was. And the answer revolved around KS Energy. When taking a closer look at the blade's molecular structure, I found something super interesting. Every single part of that blade, down to its atoms, was coated in chaos energy. However, it was quickly coming off the blade every second, and once all the chaos energy had vanished from the blade, poof. Gone. I think you can guess what's going on here. The chaos energy given off by Buura's quirk latches onto the blade and anchors it into our reality for as long as it can. However, because metal isn't very good at keeping chaos energy stuck to it, the energy comes off, and once it's finished, the blade goes back into the cognitive world. Actually, now that I think about it, her quirk might not even construct that cognitive dimension. It's possible that her quirk simply opens a portal to her cognitive space and allows things to enter and persist in this world for a time. That's beyond cool. Unfortunately, that was all the information I could get for today. After all, Buura has a job, so she couldn't stick around here all day. But this gives me time to work on something for tomorrow. Science never rests. And neither will I. At least now that Morgana's not here to make me. Nihihi. Okay, so my little plan won't be ready until tomorrow, but in the meantime I managed to get some more information about Buura's quirk via testing. I've confirmed that the energy the portals are made of is the same energy found in her blades. Just way more intense. Seems like, in smaller amounts, this energy can keep things tethered to our dimension, while higher quantities of energy can actually tear holes between the physical and cognitive worlds. Oh, I'm definitely gonna do something with this later. Oh ho, watch our dimensional barriers, here I come. But anyway, to wrap up this report, I figured out one more thing about Sai's quirk. Anything that goes through Sai's portals is irradiated with her chaos energy, basically allowing anything that traveled through dimensions to stay in that other dimension for a little bit. Good. Everything should go perfectly tomorrow. Perfect. The fractal sword project was a complete success. That's right. I had the boss make a huge fractal in the shape of a sword, meaning that Sai could eject one out of her portals. And what do you know? It didn't disappear. Due to the fractal's ability to absorb and hold chaos energy, it was able to keep all the chaos energy from the portal and stay tethered to our world indefinitely. Meaning we now have a permanent source of Sai's space-bending, cognitive world-based chaos energy. And I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. For now, I'm putting a hold to Project Sharpwit. Now it's time for Project Spatial Rend. Hello, my loyal minions. And welcome to another one of my great broadcasts. Kiba shouted proudly into her camera as she started up her stream in the gaming room with Niz by her side. Today we have a special guest known, one of my newer siblings, Niz. Hi everyone. Niz introduced herself loudly with a forced smile, doing as Kiba instructed before the stream started. A guest? Nice to meet ya. What a nice change of pace. What a nice girl. Okay, enough with the puns. It was Niz while it lasted. And today the two of us will be playing Super Smash Bros. Kiba said as the game screen took most of the screen, with the two girls being in the upper corner. Let's see which one of us can beat the other. Of course, since I have the advantage, I'll be giving Niz here a little handicap. Niz then held up two more controllers using her vectors. Wait, she's gonna play 3 characters? That sounds hard as hell. Is that really an advantage? Lady Kiba's still gonna win. In truth, they weren't wrong about it being difficult. Trying to control and keep track of 3 characters on screen at the same time was difficult, and using the controllers with her vectors was also a bit difficult, seeing as her ability to control them was still kinda shaky. Still, she'd try for the content. As Lady Kiba's new apprentice, she had to be bold. Now without any further ado, let's go! Kiba shouted as she picked Ganondorf, one of her mains. Got it, Lady K. Knees nodded as she picked her 3 characters. Her primary character would be Pyra/Mithra, with Kazuya and Incineroar as her secondaries. And with that, they were off to final destination. Kazuya was next to the left edge of the stage, with Ganondorf to her right, and then Pyra to the right of him and Incineroar closest to the right edge of the stage. My money's on Kiba. Same. I'm gonna bet on knees, just to support her. I think she can win. Kiba's playing a slow character, and all 3 of Nisa's characters are super brain-dead powerhouses. She could just unga-bunga Kiba to death. Kiba's got this, hands down. Game. The announcer's voice boomed as Ganondorf was shot off the side of the screen but Pyra's smash attack. Well, it's a good thing we didn't actually bet money, huh? No, Lady Kiba. Damn it. Told you so. The game had gone, ultimately rather poorly for Kiba. Shirnies didn't have super good control over her other 2 characters, but she had enough control to get them to spam their strongest moves while her main character fended Kiba off. Of course, Kiba had gotten a few KOs, even coming very close to finishing off Incineroar, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. Kiba pouted as she looked at the results screen. Okay, from now on, you're only using 2 characters. Meanwhile, Sheena was practicing her makeup, with Mina behind her, watching over her. Sheena set down her lipstick and took a look at herself. Still not nearly as good as Mina's work. Some of her boniness was still showing, and her wig wasn't on perfectly. Hey, that was a lot better than last time. You're getting close to perfecting it. Mina praised her. She could tell the girl was frustrated after hours of practice. So she had to make sure she didn't get disheartened. Sheena sighed. Ms. Mina, why am I so bad at everything? Besides singing. Well, that just kinda happens sometimes, Mina said, giving her a sympathetic look. Some people are just better at things than others naturally, and others aren't. Like me, for example, I may be good-looking and have a nice quirk, but I'm dumb as a rock. But didn't you get into UA? Sheena asked her curiously. Yup, Mina said proudly. Because with enough hard work, even someone with 0 talent for something can still be good at it. That's why you have to keep trying. K. Sheena thought about Mina's words before her face hardened into a determined expression. Right? Thank you, Ms. Mina. Mina smiled and patted the girl on the head. No problem, Skullgirl. Now let's finish up here. I hear Mr. Midoriya's asked Jiro to help you with music. So we don't want to keep her waiting. Meanwhile, in the training room, Izuku was standing in front of Kiba, Yami, Netsu, Ken, Nara, aka Alice, and the Cerberus sisters. All of whom, including Izuku, were wearing training weights around their wrist and ankles. Of course, some were significantly heavier than others. Alright everyone, it's time to go for a run, Izuku told them. Ken, Nara, remember you're not allowed to use your quirks. What? Why just us? Ken whined as he picked at his weights. Because you two need to train your base forms so you won't be sitting ducks whenever you're forced into them, Izuku explained as he looked over the kids. Now let's dash. Izuku stopped when he suddenly noticed something off. Kiba was sweating. No, not just sweating, she actually looked to be struggling a bit with her weights. Now of course Kiba's weights were extremely heavy, but for her, she shouldn't really be struggling with them. And was it just him, or did she look slightly paler than usual? Kiba, are you okay? Izuku asked, immediately heading towards her before kneeling down and touching her forehead. It was hard to tell if she had a fever or not, given that Kiba's normal body temperature was typically colder than normal. Yeah, my stomach just hurts a bit, Kiba said. Although she was downplaying quite a bit. Not only did her stomach feel like it was turning, but her head was pounding and she felt rather dizzy. Izuku frowned. Alright, then you can just go lay down then. Kiba shook his head. No. I'm fine, I can still run. Watch. The pale girl then ran over to the side and tried to run in a circle. She got about halfway into her small circle before she stopped and... Waff. Suddenly Kiba fell to her knees and vomited up a pool of red bloody vomit. Now Izuku and Kiba were in the medbay with Kiba laying down on one of the beds, looking much better than she did previously but still a little out of it. Vera looked at some results from the tests she took. It seems like she has a terrible stomach bug. Nothing deadly, but it will make her rather upset in the tummy for a few weeks. However, due to her body's need to drink up blood, this may be a bit worse. She cannot drink as much blood as normal. If she tries, she throws it up. If she keeps throwing up blood, her condition could get much worse. So she'll have to only have a bit of blood and not around too much to keep her body from using it all up. Izuka surmised, looking extremely worried. Is that right? Correct, Vera confirmed. But so long as she follows instructions, she will be fine. Ugh, hi. Are you saying I'll have to be weak for weeks and stay inactive all the while? Kiba groaned. That sounds like torture. Can't you use your quirk to fix me? Fixing disease is not as easy as fixing damage. Vera shook her head with a dismayed expression on her face. It is best to just get better the normal way. Kiba pouted. Fine. Will she still be able to go to the sports festival? Izuku asked, causing Kiba's eyes to widen. So long as she takes some medicine and doesn't move around too much, then yes, Vera explained. The sports festival. Kiba gasped. Yeah, I got tickets from UA for us all to go to the sports festival, Izuku explained. So if you want to go, make sure you don't do what Vera told you to so you don't get any worse. Kiba nodded rapidly before stopping because she was getting nauseous again. Ugh. Izuka sighed. He could feel another headache coming on real soon. Hello, my loyal minions. Kiba was back in her room, on her bed, while Fu recorded her. Now this may come as a surprise for you all, but I've been attacked by a horrible foe assaulting my stomach from within and hindering my power. She has a stomach bug, Fu explained in short. Oh no. Damn, even Lady Kiba can get sick. Hope you get better soon. Stay strong, Lady K. Kiba shook her head while putting on a big smile. Fear not, my followers. For this has done little but weaken me. While I may not be at my normal strength, nor will I be able to move as much as I'd like. But otherwise I am unhindered, and will continue to bring you content from my bed. Yay! Lady K, don't push yourself. That's our Lady K. Are you sure that's okay? Don't worry, I'm sure her dad wouldn't let her do it if it was dangerous. While I know this news must distress you, I do have a positive surprise, Kiba smirked. Despite my condition, I am still in good enough health to attend the UA Sports Festival. And not only that, I will be holding a meet and greet as well as unveiling my new merchandise, which I will be signing for one day only. We'll also be allowing pre-orders for our game, Fu added, which we'll have a new trailer for soon. Wait, what? That's awesome. Gimme. Now I have to go. Give. Me. Now. Shut up and take my money. Please tell me there's a plush. Now then, please wait and look forward to that day, Kiba told them. Until then, your queen must rest. Farewell. Stain looked down at his computer with a smirk. He knew continuing to watch these streams was a good idea. Kiba was going to be outside her home and weakened. It was almost as if some divine being was gifting him a chance, and he wouldn't let it go to waste. He'd give that brat a lesson she would never forget. The gentle criminal smiled down at his computer. Finally, a chance to grab the spotlight. La Brava. Be prepared. 1 week from now, we will be attending the sports festival. It wasn't easy being the principal of UA wasn't easy, especially around the time of the sports festival. Just the amount of paperwork necessary for making sure the arena was up to par would drive a normal person insane. Hence why Nizu was still in his office so late at night working away with his pen. Oh, the burdens of being in charge. Nizu sighed. But this is always worth it. The sports festival never fails to entertain. Watching my students head in with high hopes only to get crushed by the unforgiving hand of reality always lifts my spirits. Although it appears I'll have to look over my security, wouldn't you say, Giza? Behind Nizu was a man, or rather a large humanoid rat, wearing a big dark gray hooded robe. The man was slightly taller than average and was covered in dark brown fur with some white spots around his face, as well as a long thin white beard at the bottom of his rat face. His arms and legs were the only not hairy parts of him, rather they were just exposed gray skin, although his arms were covered in bandages while his feet were bare. HMHMHM. The man, Giza, chuckled. I would say so. It was disappointingly how easy to sneak past your defenses. I expected more from you, old friend. Well, unfortunately my budget can only allow so much without the shareholders getting antsy. Niza sighed. If I had things my way, then UA would be a fortress in the sky with an electrified force field surrounding it. Perhaps that might be a bit much. Giza mused, stroking his beard as he moved to the front of Nizu's desk. Putting that aside, I'm ashamed to say I need your assistance. About time, Niza said with a tiny hint of smugness. I told you the foot were not foes to be taken lightly. Giza shook his head. Things have changed. They had another success. For the first time in a long, long time, Niza's smile fell and all cheer left his tone. Elaborate. Giza then took out a photo from his screen and put it down on Nizu's desk. The photo was of 4 baby humanoid turtles. This isn't good. I thought we'd have more time. Nizu started to sweat. Do not worry too much, my old friend, Giza assured him. They still have no idea how this success was achieved, much like with us. And I've already taken away the children and burned their research. They're not finding out the secrets of the ooze anytime soon. Good. Nizu breathed a sigh of relief. We still have time. Where are the children? I am currently hiding them deep within the sewers, Giza answered. However, I don't know how long that place will be safe. That's why I came to you. I need somewhere safe. Somewhere fortified where even the foot wouldn't be able to touch them. I think I know a place, Nizu said. Izuku needed to hire more bodyguards. Sure, he'd increased the security of the foundation quite a bit, but that wouldn't help when they went outside. Outside, not only did the kids not have their security system to hide behind, but they couldn't even use their quirks. Meaning their bodyguards were their only line of defense. And right now they only had 2. Which meant one could go with them to keep the kids with them safe, and the other would have to stay here and keep the kids here safe. And Izuku didn't like the idea of only having one bodyguard guard that many children. Which is how Izuku ended up in a DOC office doing interviews with Sai by his side. He'd been through 5 people already and none of them seemed right. Their backgrounds were too clean, suspiciously so. They all seemed too perfect and acted too polite. He needed someone unlikely, someone obviously imperfect. Sir, the next person is here, Sai said, handing him that person's file. All right, let them in. Izuku sighed as he read over that person's file. With that, the next person came in. He was a very fit man, with slicked back gray hair, going into a thin ponytail going down his back. He wore a plain black sleeveless shirt that showed off his muscly arms and a regular old pair of jeans. Hello there, Mr. Midoriya? The man cheerily introduced himself. It's a pleasure to meet you. Same, Izuku said as politely as he could while only paying half attention due to him reading the file. So your name is Tokoshi Totoi. Age 85, correct? That's right. Here and ready to work. Tokoshi said stiffly, obviously not used to acting so overly polite. And your quirk is called Power Comes with Age, Izuku said as he read the file. It makes you stronger as you get older. You must be pretty strong at this point. You got that right, sir. Tokoshi said as he flexed his muscles. I could flip a truck if you needed me to, sir. Well, at least he's strong. Izuku noted as he continued looking over the file until he found something interesting and his eyes widened. It says here that you were arrested twice. One for participating in an underground fighting ring and the other for vigilantism. Tokoshi winced. Yeah, that did happen. You see, I've always felt the need to fight against evil, but I was pretty weak when I was younger, so I couldn't really become a hero, and by the time I started to get strong it was too late, so decided to train by doing those underground fights, got arrested. Was released, became a vigilante, got caught, and well, you can guess the rest, but on the bright side I do have combat experience. I see. Izuku put down the folder and started paying more attention to the man. And why do you want to work for the Midoriya Foundation? You said earlier that you wanted to fight against evil, is that your reason? It's one of them. The man rubbed the back of his head nervously. To be honest with you, sir, I have 3 reasons. What I just mentioned was one of them, but the main reason is because my grandson has gotten sick and his treatment is rather expensive. So as his grandpa, I need to do what I can to make sure he stays alive. And given my record, finding a job can be pretty hard. I see, Izuku repeated. So far everything about this man made him want to hire him. But he had to be careful still. And what was the last reason? Because I've always wanted to be a combat butler. The man admitted sheepishly. They've just always been so cool. And I'd look great in one of those suits. Sir. Well, Izuku certainly wasn't expecting that answer, even Sai raised an eyebrow at that. Interesting, Izuku remarked. Well, he definitely was more appealing than all the other candidates. But there was still one more thing. Well, that's all well and good, and I have to say, despite your record, I guess because of it I am interested in hiring you. Not only that, I'm fully willing to pay for your grandson's treatment. The man's face lit up like a Christmas tree. That's dash. On one condition, Izuku added sternly. I've been very paranoid about potential spies or assassins trying to get close to me and the kids by becoming employees. To get around this issue, I've been having any and all potential employees take a mental probe. If you're not willing to do this, then I'm not sure I can hire you. I'll do it. Tokoshi quickly volunteered. I'll be more than glad to do that for you, sir. I have nothing to hide, well, nothing important anyway. Izuku smiled. Good. Well then, you're hired. Hours later, the interviews continued and Izuku's good mood from the earlier hire had depleted. By the end, Izuku was driving back with a dismayed look on his face. Sai, what do you think of most of those candidates? Half of them could be spies, the other half not so sure. Sai shook her head. Either way, I'd say that the only safe one was that Totoi man. Izuku sighed. I need more than 3 bodyguards. Ugh, if only I could find bodyguards like I could find children. Brrrr. Izuku released another sigh as he pulled out his phone. This better not be, oh, it's Nizu. Wonder what he wants. He swiftly answered and held the phone to his ear. Nizu, did you need dash? I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. Midoriya, but I have a matter of the utmost importance to speak of with you, Nizu told him urgently. I apologize for my rudeness, but I'm already headed towards your facility with a guest. Please allow us in. I assure you my guests will do you no harm. All right, Izuku answered. I'm not home right now, but I'll be there soon. We'll meet in my office. Understood, thank you, Mr. Midoriya, Nizu said before hanging up. What was that about, sir? Sai asked. I have no idea, Izuku answered with a scowl on his face. But we're going to find out. Izuku arrived at his house in no time and immediately made his way toward his office. When he entered, he found Chol seated on one of his couches while Nizu and Giza sat on the opposite couch. Giza carrying the 4 humanoid baby turtles in his arm. Hello, Mr. Midoriya? Nizu greeted, sounding much calmer than before. Mr. Midoriya, thank you for allowing us your home, Giza said politely, giving a small bow. My name is Giza, it is an honor to meet you. Same to you, Izuku said quickly but politely as he took his seat next to Chol. Now then, what brings you two here? Yes, I suppose it'd be better to explain as soon as possible, Nizu said, before looking at Sai and Chol. However, I would ask that your attendants leave the room. What I'm about to share with you is a secret I would rather as few people know as possible. Izuku thought about it for a moment before looking over at Chol and Sai. Could you two please give us some privacy? Sai bowed and Chol got up. Yes, sir. And with that, the two swiftly exited the room, leaving Izuku alone with his guests. Now that they were gone, Izuku's attention was completely on the 6 in front of him. Nizu, what's this about? I've never heard you sound so worried before. Most people haven't, Nizu told him. But this relates to something that's rather personal to me. My creation. Izuku froze. He knew that this was dire before just from Nizu's tone, but for the situation to call for him to explain his history, something he'd been very secretive about and had even gone so far as to openly threaten people who'd try to snoop too much. This must be direr than he thought. Allow me to explain. Giza started. A long time ago, the Yakuza was a powerful, rich, and seemingly invincible criminal organization that sane man would dare oppose. That was until quirks came into existence. With a quirk, one man could take on 100, unarmed even, and there was little that the Yakuza could do in the face of swarms of superpowered vigilantes. Most tried to stubbornly fight against them, using all their power, influence, and wealth to try and survive, but to no avail. And so the Yakuza was shattered into many, many splinter groups, one of which would go on to be group dealt with. Most of these groups would be dismantled in time, however, there was one group that was different from the rest. This group saw the fall of the Yakuza coming, and rather than attempting to fight back, they took their wealth and vanished. They would later go on to call themselves the Foot. Nizu continued. This group knew the value of quirks and knew that the only way to regain their full power was to master quirks. To find a way to control quirks and those who wield them, and so they poured much of their wealth into finding out the secrets of quirks and how to bestow them onto their minions and themselves. They searched for years, doing tests on animals and humans alike, Giza said. Until eventually they created a liquid known as mutagen or the ooze. This liquid would cause a mutation in whoever it came into contact with, similar to giving them a quirk. Although most did not survive the process and would either die or lose their minds soon after touching it. But rarely, very rarely, there would be someone who would survive the process and gain new quirks. Me and Nizu are such examples. We were animals, exposed to mutagen, and thus we gained a beyond human-level intelligence, Nizu explained. As such, we were kept and studied. We lived in small cages, and every day we would go through some sort of agonizing experiment. From having our blood extracted from our bodies to being opened up and stitched back together. Our time there was unpleasant to say the least. Fortunately, I eventually managed to come up with a plan, and with the help of the others, we managed not only to escape but destroy both the facility and the people who worked there. However, that was only one of many of the Foot's facilities, Giza added. In the end, we knew it would take far more to put an end to the Foot. However, had different thoughts on how best to handle the situation. Giza wished to attack the Foot immediately while I wanted to amass power and influence and then attack them, Nizu explained. This was why I became a pro-hero. as well as to make sure other organizations like the Foot would be destroyed. And so we parted ways, Giza said. I attacked various Foot facilities, destroying their research as well taking care of their men. However, recently I have stumbled upon these four. Another success in their experiments. And thus things became more complicated. So you came to me to ask me to hide you five on my property, Izuku said, seeing where the story was going. That is correct, Mr. Midoriya, Niza confirmed. I apologize for asking you to become a target for yet another criminal organization, but seeing as you're already increasing your security due to the MLA, you were the only person I could trust to keep them safe and not do anything dubious. I see. Izuku thought this over. Well, protecting children is the entire point of my job, so I'm not going to back down now. Thank you, Mr. Midoriya, we are in your debt. Giza did another short bow to him. Please feel free to ask whatever you may need of me. Giza is second to none in combat skills. I think you'd find him a fantastic combat instructor for the children, Niza suggested. Or as a bodyguard. That's perfect, I needed another one of those. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. Well, then welcome to the Midoriya Foundation. Maybe I should build some kind of arena. Izuku thought as he stood outside with all four of his bodyguards in front of him. In front of the bodyguards were the Cerberus sisters who had come upon Izuku's request. And lastly behind Izuku was Shina, who had also come due at Izuku's request. After reaching an opening in the woods, they stooped. All right, here looks good, Izuku said, stopping everyone. What looks good, sir? Tokoshi asked, adjusting the tie on his new butler suit. Shum. Izuku suddenly launched himself towards them at astonishing speeds. He rushed past the bodyguards so fast that most of them couldn't react and almost grabbed G. Until Giza launched himself at G at the last minute and pushed her out of the way. Izuku missed G, but he suddenly moved midair toward Inu, who was right next to him. His hand almost reached here, but suddenly two swords appeared on either side of him, blocking him from both Inu and Yaba. What the heck? Yaba squawked as suddenly she was carried away because Sai sent a sword flying through her collar, getting her away from Izuku. At that same moment, Sai opened portals around Izuku and dropped swords all around him, trapping him in a cage of swords. Wait, what the hell is happening? Sori asked, looking extremely confused. Mr. Midoriya is testing us using his repel quirk he got from Ms. Shina, keep him away from the kids. Sai quickly explained to everyone. Correct. Izuku said as he repelled all the swords away from him, causing the swords on top of him to fly up into the air, and the swords surrounding him shattered and their pieces flew all over the place. Now show me that you can protect my children. Izuku repelled himself upwards, then towards G, flying through the air toward his sister at an alarming speed. Sori moved faster, rushing towards G and grabbing her before Izuku could get close, before running away. Izuku then moved towards the next closest girl, Yaba, and flew towards her. However, Tokoshi was closer and he managed to jump in front of Yaba before he got to her. Izuku continued towards her and when he got close, he tried to repel Tokoshi out of the way. Grrrr. Tokoshi grit his teeth as he felt an overwhelmingly strong force trying to push him back. For a second he actually slid back a few inches, but he managed to dig his heels into the ground and stop himself before he started pushing forward. Against Izuku's quirk. Izuku's eyes widened when he saw this and stopped himself mid-air before bringing himself upwards and over Tokoshi, then using his repel again. While Tokoshi was strong enough to resist his repel, the ground was not, and Tokoshi was forced down into the ground like a drill, boring deeper and deeper into the earth, creating a pretty deep hole. But before Izuku could use this opportunity to go at Yaba, Sori had already grabbed her along with the others and started fleeing into the woods towards the house. Even with my repel, she's still faster than me. But unlike her, I don't need to move around the trees. Izuku flew forward, following Sori, using his temporary quirk to repel any trees in his way away, causing them to either fall over or get smashed to pieces as Izuku sped forward without issue. It didn't take long for Izuku to catch up to Sori due to the girls in her arms. She couldn't move as fast as she normally could, nor was she as agile, so she actually had to move around the trees. Crap. The boss is gonna catch up to me at this rate. Gotta think of something. Sori thought to herself. Then she dug her foot into the ground with her next step and kicked up a massive dirt cloud at Izuku. Izuku immediately repelled the dust cloud, however, in that split second when his vision was blocked, Sori had vanished. Smart move. Izuku thought. She must have hidden somewhere nearby. Izuku then plopped onto the ground, took a look around, and then activated his quirk. Shum. Suddenly everything around Izuku flew away, trees, rocks, leaves, blades of grass, everything, turning the area into a patch of dirt. Sori was revealed hiding in the leaves of one of the fallen trees, which were blown away along with the tree, leaving her and the girls exposed. Shit, Sori swore before she immediately started running. However, Izuku used his repel quirk on her, causing her to trip and fall, dropping the girls in front of her. Just as Izuku was about to zoom toward the girls, he saw portals circularly open above the girls, but he also felt his Aegis robe armor up on his left side. Izuku then repelled a sword that was about to hit him, causing it to fly away, and at the same time a cage of swords formed around the girls and Sori. Sai then came in, riding a rocket sword over to them before jumping off it to keep her distance from Izuku, before then opening a bunch of portals around Izuku and unleashing swords rapid fire on Izuku. This actually managed to stop Izuku, as he was forced to stand still and repel all the swords coming at him. But then he turned up his quirk to max power. All the swords that were repelled went flying in every direction, raining down on the land like deadly rain. Sai saw some of the swords flying at her and was forced to open up a few portals around her and shoot out more swords to shoot down the swords coming at her. But now she was sweating. Having to open up all these portals was starting to take a toll on her vitality and distracted her for just a moment. With that, Izuku took a deep breath and then used his quirk on all the air around him. Shum! A dome of air expanded away from Izuku, encompassing everything around him like a massive blast. Ack! Sai was blown away with all of her swords sent flying back into the woods and causing all the portals to vanish. Immediately, Izuku turned towards the cage of swords and saw that Sori and the girls were no longer there, and the back of the cage had been smashed apart. Then Izuku felt his robe tense up completely, armoring him and cutting off his line of sight. Oh! Izuku repelled himself away from that spot just in time as Tokoshi came crashing down to the ground, creating a massive shockwave. Gah! Izuku was blown back by the shockwave. He hadn't expected it, so he couldn't repel it, but fortunately his robe diminished most of the damage. Izuku tumbled across the ground for a second before using his quirk to reel in himself back to his feet. "Forgive me, sir," Tokoshi said as he rushed towards Izuku to punch him. Izuku just flew into the air, got over Tokoshi, and repelled him into the ground once again. With that done, Izuku looked over to the area where the kids had been. At this rate, they're likely far enough away that I won't be able to find them before Shina's quirk wears off. Guess I'll call it quits for now. Alright, that's enough, Izuku shouted. The exercise is over. I have to say, I didn't expect you to be the type of person to give this kind of test. Izuku turned around and saw that Giza had snuck up behind him. I'm guessing you're the one that hid the kids? That is correct, Giza confirmed while stroking his beard. Approaching you directly was a futile effort and it was not our objective. I find that doing unnecessary things during combat is what often leads to defeat. True enough, I guess. Izuku agreed before looking around. Where are the girls, by the way? They will come out when your quirk is no longer present, Giza explained. In about 30 seconds. I don't think you'd want us to just let the children go around our enemies just because they say they surrender, would you? That wasn't part of the test, but good thinking. Izuku praised. Now thanks to this test, I think I have a good idea of who I should take to the sports festival with me. Smash! Rag! Redestro shouted as he threw yet another desk against the wall of his apartment. That damn Midoriya! All of his undercover agents had been rejected by the Midoriya Foundation, meaning he was still no closer to killing Izuku Midoriya. The worst part is he had no idea how to even get an agent into the Foundation because their hiring processes seemed to be fucking random. At this point, most of his allies say that he's just wasting his time, but he refused to let Midoriya live. Izuku Midoriya was an insult to everything he and his ancestors stood for and must be dealt with. Growling. I have to kill him at the sports festival. Redestro growled as he tried to calm himself. It's the only time when I know he'll be leaving that fortress he calls a home. I was thinking the same thing, said an unknown female voice behind him. Redestro immediately activated his quirk, growing his arm to 10 times the size, before swinging behind him at whoever had snuck up on him. But he hit nothing but air. You have nothing to fear, Redestro. If I wanted you dead, you would simply be dead, said the voice coming from behind him again. Redestro growled and turned around to see who the mysterious intruder was. It was a young woman covered head to toe in black garb with some dark gray metal armor covering her chest and legs. Her face was covered by a black mask, revealing only her bright green eyes. I apologize, you caught me in a bad mood, Redestro said, glaring at the woman and keeping his quirk active. Now if you could explain to me who you are, how you got here, and how you know that name, I might allow you to live. My name is Karai, and I come with an offer. The woman explained. Tell me, have you ever heard of the Foot Clan? Redestro glared at her even harsher. The Foot Clan? They're a mere myth. It's good to hear you say that. We prefer to keep a low profile for the time being, Karai said. But we are very, very real. And we would like to collaborate with you in your efforts to kill Midoriya Izuku at the sports festival. All for one smiled as he looked up at the TV with both Redestro and Karai both on call. Well, the Foot Clan, what a surprise. You knew of their existence? Redestro asked, not liking how he was the only one that had been in the dark. All for one scoffed. One does not live as a criminal mastermind for several hundred years and not know of the Foot Clan. Good, then we can get to the point, Karai said. We are planning to attack the UA Stadium on the day of the sports festival and we'd like to ask for your cooperation. Oh. All for one smirked. Seemed like things were going to be more amusing than he thought. That's a rather daring move. Let me guess, it's about the Midoriya Foundation? You would be correct, Karai confirmed. The Midoriya Foundation currently has something that belongs to the Foot Clan. And you already know what issue the MLA has with them. Yes, I'm well aware. All for one said. But what would motivate me to join your attack? I would appreciate it if you did not waste time playing coy. Karai scolded. We all know that you would love to get your hands on the Midoriya family's quirks. Yes, I suppose that was obvious. All for one chuckled. But still, that is a rather risky operation. The sports festival is going to be attended by hundreds of heroes, including All Might and Endeavor. Not to mention all the heroes that are going to be watching it from elsewhere. It won't be a stretch to say that reinforcements will come pretty much instantly and in numbers we could not hope to fight off. And it would almost guarantee that all three of us would be exposed to the world afterward. True, but when one is focused so thoroughly on one thing, they tend to be rather ignorant to everything else, Karai explained. With most of the heroes focused on the sports festival, it will be easier for criminals to get away with unsavory acts. Something we've already pointed out to the many gangs and wannabe criminals itching for a chance to prove themselves a threat. Interesting, but do you really think an army of low-rank villains will attract attention away from the sports festival? All for one asked. Even the lower-rank heroes dispatch of them in droves. It will cause chaos, but nearly enough. Indeed, but the villains are there to keep the heroes' attention, not attract it, Karai said. That's what the bombs are for. Regardless of their power and skill, rescue and damage control takes time. Add all those lowly villains to mix and the heroes will have their hands quite full. Even more so if you would be so kind as to lend some of your Nomu to the mix. We'll see, so what's your plan for the attack on the actual festival? All for one asked. After many of the heroes are distracted, we will activate the E.M.P.S around the city, meaning no one will be able to tell what's happening and people won't know the arena is being attacked, Karai explained. Then, that's when we infiltrate the arena and quickly go after our targets, overwhelming them with numbers, completing our missions, and getting out before they can counterattack. All for one thought about it for a moment. Alright, I'm in. I think I can offer some very useful tools to your operation, like Kurogiri and something we've been preparing for a while. I can't think of a better time to use Starro. Izuku walked into the lab with a stern look on his face. He walked through the halls of the laboratory, moving past several staff bots. The staff bots were made by Dr. Hikari to do all the menial tasks that scientists couldn't be bothered to do and that they didn't want to hire people to do. They had the upper half of a robotic human while their wide lower halves moved with two wheels. Izuku moved towards Mai's office before letting himself in. Jiken, is it ready yet? Just about. Me and Dr. Hikari worked around the clock on it. Mai explained as she pulled up a large briefcase around half the size of her body. Oh, it's a bit heavy though. Well, that's to be expected considering what I asked for, Izuku said, and he took the briefcase. It was a bit heavy, thankfully he worked out so he could carry it with little difficulty. About that, sir, are you sure this is okay? Mai asked with an extremely uneasy expression. This weapon is kinda cruel. It could ruin a person's life in more ways than one. I'm aware. Izuku sighed, looking down at the case with a heavy expression. I really don't want to use this. But if I have to, that means my children are in danger. And if that's the case, I can't afford to hold back. They will regret trying to darken my children's futures. I mean, if you're using it on child-killing scum, I guess I can't feel too bad for them, Mai said, although her uneasy expression contradicted her words. It's fine to feel bad for them, just not to the point where we let them get their way, Izuku told her with a sigh. But anyway, the other briefcase? Right? Sir. Mai went under her desk and grabbed the other briefcase. This one was smaller, but still pretty big. Sir, are you sure about this? If this briefcase falls into the wrong hands, the results could be catastrophic. I know. But I have to take every precaution I can. Izuku said as he took the other briefcase. Sir, I hate to sound like I'm going against you after everything you've done for me, but you're just going to the sports festival. I pointed out with an apologetic tone. Isn't it already safe enough? Izuka sighed and put down the briefcases before looking Mai straight in the eye. I was on my front lawn, miles away from the city, surrounded by grim-infested forest. All Might and Eraserhead were literally right in front of me, along with my two extremely powerful bodyguards and the entirety of Class 1A. And yet despite all that, the villain managed to break into my house, fight All Might, Eraserhead, my bodyguards, and the army of Grimm to a standstill, get the advantage over Class 1A, and if it weren't for my children stepping in, we could have lost that whole battle. My son had his hand burnt off. Nara had a hole put in her chest, Ken was put into critical condition, and Kiba almost murdered several people, including her own friends. Do you understand my position a little better now? I cringed and looked away in shame. Sorry, sir. No need to apologize, I understand I'm being paranoid to an extent, Izuku admitted. But if that paranoia keeps my children safe, then I'll do what I must. I understand, sir, I trust you know what you're doing, Mai said as she bowed to her boss. I told you it's fine. It's actually a good thing that you're questioning me. It lets me know you have integrity. Izuka smiled. I'm glad I put you in charge of this division. Mai smiled back. Thank you, sir. Once again Izuku had rented a bus for all of them to drive to Yueon, much like he did when they went to the amusement park. Giza was driving it now, with Izuku in the seat directly behind them. Behind him was Sori, who was the other bodyguard accompanying them. And behind her were all the children that had gone with them. Fu and Kyosei, Kiba, Sanson, Shiruku, Yami, Mu, Netsu, Ken, Nara, aka Alice, and the Cerberus trio. And behind the bus was a trailer filled with their stuff. Mainly Kiba merch. I'm surprised you came with us, Shiruku. I didn't think you were interested in hero stuff, Nara said. I'm not, but I do want to cheer on Achiko, Shiruku explained. Eri and Kei wanted to do it too, but they had to babysit the turtles, so I'm coming to represent them too. It's such a shame that you're not interested in being a hero. AKA sighed from her seat. You could crush so many villains. I'm even more surprised that you came, Mu, Netsu said, looking at Mu, who was covered in a sheet to keep people from looking at him. I wanted to see the heroes, Mu explained curtly. All right, everyone. Izuka spoke up, getting everyone's attention. We're almost there. Now, remember, stay in groups. Always be near one of the bodyguards, and if something happens, let us know immediately, understood? Yes, shouted all the children. And remember, no using your quirks if you can help it. Izuka reminded them. This isn't the Foundation, you can get in serious trouble for using your quirks in public. Especially if someone winds up getting hurt. AKA raised her hand. What if some lower-than-dirt, scummy villain tries to do something? Izuka sighed. That depends. If you can, try to run away and get one of the bodyguards to deal with it. But if you for whatever reason you or someone else is in danger and the only way to save them is to use your quirk, then do it. I'll handle the repercussions afterward. Got it, everyone? Everyone nodded. And with that, the bus came to a stop. We have arrived, Giza said, putting the bus in park. Midoriya and company walked onto the UA Stadium fairgrounds, where people would buy and sell things from stalls that UA would rent out. However, it was rather empty at the moment due to them arriving much earlier. Normally no one would be allowed in at this time, however, they were a special case. It's a pleasure to see you again, Mr. Midoriya, Niza said as he and Izuka talked while the kids set up Kiba's stall. You as well, Giza. How have things been going at the Foundation? Fairly well, I have no complaints, Giza said while stroking his beard. Although hopefully I will be a little less busy once this is over. That's likely. From the looks of it, Mr. Midoriya's been preparing for our event quite thoroughly. Niza said, looking at the two suitcases that Izuku was holding. May I inquire what are in those cases, Mr. Midoriya? I apologize, but would like to keep that secret, Izuku told him. It's nothing dangerous to you. I see. Very well, I trust your word, Niza told him. Just take care not to raise any suspicion. Noted, thank you, Izuka said, giving a brief bow to show his appreciation. And thank you for all the special treatment as well. Well, you know what they say, scratch my back, I scratch yours, Niza said. I do hope we can continue this mutually beneficial relationship. As do I. Izuka nodded. A few hours later, after the other stalls had set up, the pre-sports festival activities had finally started. The fairgrounds were full of life and absolutely crawling with people and pro-heroes alike. As such, the group split into two as best to enjoy the festival. The first group would stay at Kiba's stall and included, of course, Kiba, Fu, Mu, and Ken, along with Sori to guard them, while the second group wandered around the festival grounds. This group consisted of everyone else. Naturally, seeing as they traveled in such a big group and their patriarch was wearing a cloak made of darkness, they got a lot of looks from passers-by, not that any of them paid it any thought. Whoa, look, it's Kamui Woods. Netsa gasped as he saw the rising star of a pro hero along with MT Lady and Death Arms. Dad, can we go get his autograph? You can ask, but stay within sight, Izuku instructed. Immediately, the kids ran up to the heroes and swarmed them in the way children do. Izuku smiled as the children looked up at the heroes with glimmering eyes. It set his soul at ease. Yo! Shouted a familiar voice. Ha! Izuku looked toward the sound of the voice and saw Fat Gum walking up to him. Fat Gum! Hey Midoriya, long time no see. Fat Gum greeted as he came right up to Izuku. Glad to see you're healthy. Man, to think that little kid I saw running a food stand would grow into this. Wild. Yeah, I can barely believe it myself. Izuku chuckled as he recalled the last time he saw Fat Gum. It felt like so long ago. Back then he only had 2 kids, was mildly wealthy, didn't technically have a job, and still lived in a small apartment. So much has happened, feels like I've lived 2 completely different lives. I can only imagine. Fat Gum said before scowling. Hey, are you okay? No one around here is giving you any trouble because of your condition. Not yet. Izuku shook his head. Hopefully none of that will happen today and me and the kids can just enjoy ourselves. Yeah, I heard about those meta-liberation bastards. To think someone would go through all the trouble to attack someone just because they're quirkless, unbelievable. Fat Gum said in disgust. Makes no freaking sense. Izuku sighed. Unfortunately, looking at history, this is very believable. Although I wish it wasn't. I'll tell you what, once we find where those quirkest lowlives are hiding, I'ma make sure I take 'em down myself, don't you worry, kid. Fat Gum told him. You just keep doing your job and taking care of those kids. Will do, sir. Izuku smiled. And thank you for being concerned about me. I can't say I'm thrilled about what happened to my middle school, but it was probably the right call. Glad you can see it my way, kid. Fat Gum said, patting him on the back. A father needs to stick up for himself if he wants good things for his kids after all. You're right about that. Izuku nodded. If I had let people walk all over me, I'd likely be dead by now. Bro. Yaba shouted as she and the others ran over to him after finishing up with Kamui Woods and company. She and the others proudly held up their autograph books, showing the 3 new signatures. Check it out, Weewo, is that Fat Gum? Cool. Sansen cooed. Dad, you know Fat Gum? Netsu asked, his fire almost sparkling. We've met, Izuku said, blushing a bit. He helped me out with something. It was my pleasure, your father's a stand-up guy after all. Can't let Quirkus keep him down for something so silly. Fat Gum said, giving them all a winning smile. Hey, why don't I give you all my autograph? Yetta. The kids cheered. Come on. Come all. Ken called as he sat behind Kiba's booth with Fu and of course Kiba herself. Since Kiba was sick, Ken would be the one doing the shouting. Get your signed Kiba merchandise. Meet Kiba herself. And place a pre-order for the new game by Omni Studios. In front of them was a bunch of Kiba merch. Figures of Kiba in various outfits. Shirts, hats, and jackets that said things like Midoriya Army follower of Kiba and Kiba's faithful. Posters, mugs, and all sorts of things with Kiba's face on them. Lady Kiba. Oh my god, she's so cute. Lady Kiba, I'll take 10 shirts. Give me a poster. I love you, Lady Kiba. Sign my baby. These people are insane. Mu thought as he sat under the booth with the cash register and credit card reader. He reached his hand up through the booth and grabbed the money that was constantly being thrown their way before bringing it down and putting it in the cash register. Man, this stuff is selling fast, Sori said as she leaned in the back wearing her Kiba shirt, Kiba hat, and Kiba jacket while taking a sip from her Kiba cup. Good thing I bought my stuff early. I can't believe you spent half your paycheck on something you could have gotten for free. Fu thought to himself as he used Kyosei to take money and hand out merch. Meanwhile, Izuku and his group continued roaming around, gathering autographs, munching on food sold at the stalls, and generally just having a good time. Currently, Izuku was watching as his children ate some kebabs with a smile on his face until... Izuku! Cried a familiar feminine voice from behind him. Izuku's eyes went wide and he quickly turned around to see none other than Mitsuki Bakugo approaching them. Aunt Mitsuki? Long time no see. Mitsuki greeted him. Nice to finally see you again. It really has been a long time. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw you. Izuku admitted bashfully. So much has happened since then. Tell me about. Mitsuki gave Izuku a good glance. Damn, you're so different but still pretty similar to the Izuku I knew. Oh really? Izuku was a little surprised to hear that. He'd thought he'd changed a considerable amount since he'd become a father. How so? Well, you're a bit more fierce now, but I still see that determined look in you. Mitsuki started. If anything, you seem more resolute than ever, but you still have that soft look in your eyes, like your mother's but more protective. After that, it's hard to explain. You look like you did when we last met, but more solid. Firm. But still just as stressed, unfortunately. Although honestly, I'm a little relieved, and here I thought my cute little nephew would be unrecognizable. Izuka blushed again. Aunt Mitsuki. You haven't changed much either. Mentally or physically. Thanks. But I think I went through quite the change after I figured out what my brat was doing to you. Mitsuki said with a scowl. Some part of me always knew. With you always ending up hurt and personality of his, some part of me figured it out but just didn't want to accept it. Shit, I'm so sorry, Izuku. I should have dash. Even if you did accept it back then, I doubt there was much you could do. Izuka stopped her. Even though you're his mother, you could only do so much when the world itself is working against you. Our teachers, principals, classmates, and other parents, everyone was pushing Bakhaken down the path he went. And even then it was his choice to walk it. You, Mom, and Uncle were the only ones who treated me kindly until recently, so please don't be harsh on yourself. Mitsuki frowned for a second until her expression quickly morphed into a smile. Yup, still the same Izuku. Just a bit more grown up. I'm proud of you. Izuka smiled back. Thanks. I hope someday we can feel the same way about Kaken. You and me both, kid. You and me both. Mitsuki chuckled. Anyway, I heard from Inko that you got into some business with your dad. Apparently, the bastard had some more kids and dumped them on you. Are the little dog-eared ones your sisters? Yeah, thankfully the only thing they got from his was fire-breathing, Izuku explained. They're the only and best things Dad ever gave me. Hopefully he won't try to give me anything else. At least he didn't ask me for money. If he tries, just call me. I've been wanting to kill that bastard ever since I met him. Always told Inko he was no good. Mitsuki said in disgust. How a kid like you is made of half of him, I'll never know. Oi! Hag! Shouted a far too familiar voice that made Izuku and Mitsuki cringe. They looked over and saw Bakugo heading towards them, only for him to stop when he saw Izuku. For a couple seconds, he and Izuku just looked at each other, somewhat nervously, before Bakugo just turned around and walked away. Izuka breathed a sigh of relief. I forgot he wasn't allowed to participate with his classmates, so of course he'd be here instead of with them. Yeah, well, looks like I better get going, Mitsuki said as she turned to leave. Take care of yourself, Izuku, and don't let any quirkless bastards touch or the kids. And remember to invite me over sometime. Will do. It was nice talking to you, Auntie. Izuka smiled and waved as she left. See ya. Mitsuki waved back as she headed off towards where Bakugo went off to. After she was out of sight, Izuku looked back at the kids. So much has changed. But I wonder how much has stayed the same. With that thought tucked away for later, Izuku rejoined the kids and went to enjoy the rest of the pre-sports festival events. With the pre-sports festival events closing, the main event would soon begin. Izuku regrouped with the rest of his kids and they arrived at their VP spot. It was a special booth around the top of the arena covered with reinforced glass that would allow them to see the events of the festival just fine, but would also keep them safe. Kiba, are you okay? Izuka said, taking a close look at his third daughter. Yeah. Kiba groaned. My minions were a bit more enthusiastic than I thought. I'm just really tired. Fu, keep an eye on her, Izuku ordered. Fu nodded and helped Kiba up to her seat. All right, everyone, take your seats. The race should begin in seconds, Izuku instructed everyone. Remember, this glass is thick, so you have to cheer extra loud if you want them to. Brrrr. Brrrr. Ah, give me one moment. Izuku excused himself as he went to the back of the room to answer his phone. Hello? Everything's good so far, sir, Sai reported from back at the Foundation facility. Izuka had asked her to call him every hour to update him on how things were going back at home. All the children are accounted for and no intruders have been detected. Good, keep up the good work. Izuku commended her before hanging up. All right, time to enjoy myself. It was always fun watching Quirks in action. One of the many reasons he loved his job was seeing all the interesting uses of amazing quirks by his kids. And right now he got yet another up-close look at the versatility of quirks. Immediately as the race started, Achiko, Todoroki, and Ida shot off in front of everyone else while the other students used every trick they had to try and keep up. Things only got more complicated as things went on as the massive zero-point robots were introduced. Todoroki paid them no mind. He continued riding on his trail of ice and froze whatever robot was in his way as well as the entirety of the floor around him. This caused some trouble for Ida as his legs were frozen to the ground. Achiko, on the other hand, simply jumped over the ice and used her quirk to glide over it with ease. And so, things panned out exactly the way Izuku expected. Achiko and Todoroki competing for first while everyone else tried for third. He'd hoped Ida might be able to rival them if only in speed, but with so many obstacles keeping him from reaching top gear, that was likely too much to ask. Achiko was overall faster, however, Todoroki had an easier time getting past obstacles without losing speed. It didn't take long for the two of them to start approaching the finish line. They were neck and neck, and whoever fell behind now would be the one who'd be taking second place. Todoroki covered the floor in ice in an attempt to slow Achiko down for even just a second. However, Achiko saw this coming, and the moment the ice touched her feet, she smashed it with all her might, creating a massive shock wave and sending chunks of ice flying everywhere. One of these chunks hit Todoroki in the face, causing him to lose his balance and fall to the side off of his trail of ice. And with that, Achiko's victory was sealed. She ran into the stadium across the finish line to roaring applause. And in first place is Achiko Uraraka. President Mike shouted over the roaring masses. Yeah, she did it. Shiruka cheered, screaming at the top of her lungs. Of course she did, was there ever any doubt? Kiba stated confidently. I'd expect no less of the girl wanting to get with our bro. Yaba smiled down at Achiko, giving her an approving look. Izuki just sighed. Shiruka, this is getting old. You will never stop me, Shiruku responded smugly. Izuchi lives on. Of course, she gave it a name, Fu said, rolling his eyes. Keep going, Ms. Achiko. Win it all. Netsa shouted, his fire getting more intense as he got more and more pumped up. Destroy them all. AKA cheered. The mood was absolutely jubilant in the booth as pretty much everyone celebrated the success of Izuku's closest friend. And Achiko just looked up at their booth and smiled before giving them a thumbs up. Izuka smiled back and returned the gesture. Kaboom! A sound so loud that it drowned out even the screams of thousands of people. The sounds of multiple explosions going off across the entire city. The ground shook as if a small earthquake was going off and everyone went silent. Smoke could be seen rising in the distance, and those higher above could even see buildings collapsing in the distance. Shock washed over the now silent masses as everyone stared up at the rising smoke with their mouths hanging open. Everyone please remain calm, President Mike said after half a minute. It appears that something has happened outside of the arena. Do not panic and remain in your seats. What the hell was that? President Mike whispered as he tried to process what had just happened. Meanwhile, down below, the crowd started to look worried, while many of the heroes among them sprung into action, running, jumping, or even flying out of the arena toward the various sites of the explosions. This included All Might and Endeavor, who immediately headed out of the arena to help out. Brrrr. Ha! President Mike pulled out his phone and saw that Nizu was calling him. Sir? Tell the heroes not to leave. Nizu ordered him urgently. And evacuate the civilians. What? President Mike was stupefied. Why did he need to tell heroes not to do their job? Certainly, there were people in need of help at the sites of those explosions. It's all a trap. Nizu explained. We need to dash. Scum. Suddenly, everything went out. Phones, lights, everything powered by electricity simply shut down. Ah shit, President Mike said as he looked down at his now useless phone. What's going on? Ida asked Achiko as he ran into the stadium with various other students following suit. I don't know, maybe it's another villain attack? Achiko looked up at Izuku's booth. Meanwhile, Izuka stared up at the rising smoke with a scowl. Sorry, Giza. Get ready. Caretaker, what's happening? Kiba asked, getting a bit nervous. She wasn't exactly in the condition to fight. Izuka didn't answer, instead heading over to his suitcases and opened up the larger one. Inside was a rifle and a few cartridges of ammo. Big brother. Inu gave her brother a concerned look as he pulled the gun out of the case and put the ammo up his sleeve. You brought a gun. Netsa gasped, looking at the modified rifle in shock. Don't worry, it's not a normal gun, Izuku assured them. I'm not gonna kill anyone, I just need to be ready. Ready for what? Alice asked, looking scared. And then a giant shadow appeared over the stadium. Everyone looked up and saw a massive warp gate open over the arena. Then slowly a building-sized purple starfish descended from the portal with a massive eye in its center, staring down at all the people in the arena. And while everyone looked up at in shock, holes opened up in the starfish and hundreds of smaller starfish shot out of them down onto the people below. Ahoy! Screams rang out among the crowd as the starfish rained down from the sky, landed on people's faces as others tried to run. Izuku looked over the pure chaos that going on in front of him. He held his weapon close to his chest. It seems like once again he hadn't prepared enough. Back at the Midoriya Foundation, Niz and Fuku were watching some anime in Fuku's room while enjoying some desserts. You need to teach me how to make these, Niz said with an elated face, thoroughly enjoying a cookie Fuku had made. Sure. You should taste the cookies Mr. Sato made, they were even better. Fuku told her before turning back to the TV and frowning. Why do they always do this misunderstanding thing? It's so annoying. I know, right? Niz quickly agreed. Shum. Suddenly, everything went dark. The TV, the lights, everything turned off. Immediately, both girls started to panic. What's going on? Fuku had to fight to keep in her gas once again. It's just a blackout. Don't worry. Nothing's going to. And then a hand slipped itself over her mouth. Then her gas filled the room. Izuku looked through the glass at the pure chaos unfolding outside. He noticed that whenever a starfish would land on someone's face, that person would seemingly go berserk and start attacking everyone around the who didn't have a starfish on their face. This included even some of the pro heroes that happened to still be here, such as Death Arms, who was currently smashing everything in sight as people ran from him as fast as they could. Kamui Woods was both trying to restrain Death Arms with his branches and keep the starfish from falling on the people around him by skewering them with his quirk, but it was clear he was being overwhelmed. Thankfully, it seemed like his helmet blocked the starfish from touching his face. And thankfully for them, the starfish couldn't get through the glass, instead just falling onto it with a plop before sliding off. What the fuck? Yaba shouted in confusion and rage at the chaos in front of her. Bwaga! Hiba immediately started vomiting again before passing out. Shit! Sori cursed as she rushed to Kiba's side. Lady K? Lady K? It looks like she passed out from stress and lack of blood. Giza deduced calmly. Fu, if you would please. Fu immediately ran over to Kiba and forced his arm on her fangs, which automatically began sucking up his blood. Thrum. Suddenly the entire arena shook as Starro landed in the center on two of its legs. Starro turned around, causing the arena to shake with each step until it was looking right at them. Everyone's eyes widened with fear as Starro winded back its right arm and got ready to smash it into where Izuku and the others were hiding. Izuku was about to yell at everyone to get out when suddenly someone grabbed Starro's massive arm before it could launch forward. I don't think so, Patrick. MT Lady said, grabbing hold of Starro's arm and flipping it over her should. Slam. Starro was slammed into the ground on its face, causing the arena to shake once again. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. I'll have to give MT Lady a personal thank you once this is all over. MT Lady continued wailing on Starro as the monster was unable to fight back. That was until suddenly a massive flock of birds started to swarm around her face. Ack! Get away from me, you stupid Ack! From behind, a Zero who had a starfish on his face attached a piece of tape to MT Lady's back, allowing Sato, who was also under the control of the starfish, to pull her down to the ground. Son of a bitch! MT Lady cried as she tried to pull herself up, only for Jirota Shishida from Class B, also under Starro's control, to slam into her face in full beast form. Fuck! Shishida raised his claws, ready to tear out MT Lady's eyes, only for Achiko to tackle him off of her and onto the ground. Then Vines grabbed onto the mind-controlled Zero and Sato as Ibara from Class B threw them to the side and restrained them. Meanwhile, Momo and Jiro, both wearing helmets that Momo had made to keep from getting controlled by the starfish, were trying to guide the non-controlled civilians to the exits, shooting net guns at the mind-controlled civilians to restrain them along the way. However, the moment they started to get close to an exit, all the exits were suddenly sealed shut by walls of cement, the work of a mind-controlled cementas. We need to help, Ken proclaimed, immediately raising his Omnitrix, only for Izuku to grab his wrist. Absolutely not, Izuku told them. It's too dangerous out there. But the civilians are being ripped apart, Nara argued, pointing outsides at the crowds of people who were being attacked by mind-controlled heroes, students, and civilians. If we don't do something, people are going to die. Yes, but what happens if you go out there and get controlled? Izuku argued back. There are still starfish all over the place. If one of those gets on your face, do you know how much damage you could cause? That actually caused the children to hesitate. All of them were aware of how much damage their quirks could cause if used improperly, and they could only imagine what that monster would do with them. But what if someone else can't be taken over by it? G asked, getting everyone's attention. Sanson just doesn't have a face, so it'd be impossible for her to be controlled. If Ken turns into Heat Blast, then his face would be on fire, so he couldn't be controlled. Netsu is also on fire, and Mu hides in another dimension. I don't think those starfish things could get to them. That's right, Netsu gasped. We can go out and not get mind-controlled. Izuka stayed silent as he battled with himself over what to do. Part of him didn't want to have his children go out and fight again. But the other part of him knew that they could help prevent casualties and even find a way out of here. However, his train of thought was cut off when suddenly the door to the room was smashed open and ninjas armed with swords rushed in. Immediately, Sori and Giza rushed them before they could even get close to the children. The two of them moved at overwhelming speed, hitting the ninjas in their vital points and knocking them unconscious. In less than a minute, they'd knocked out all 20 assailants. Izuka scowled. I knew it. They were after us. I hear more on their way, boss, Sori said. It would be best if we secured an escape route, Giza advised. While this place is safe from that starfish, it also leaves us trapped in a corner. And we will eventually be overrun if we do not leave. Damn it, Izuka swore as he started coming up with a plan. Okay. Mu, have you used up any of your quirk's time limit today? Mu shook his head under his cloth. All right, then I want you to look for an escape route on your own, and if you find one, tell the group and help them get out of there, Izuku explained. Giza, you do the same. Understood, sir, Giza responded. Ken, Netsu, Sanson, come with me, we're going to help deal with the chaos outside, Izuku ordered as he went to his other suitcase. Everyone else stay here, Sori keep anyone from getting inside. Once Mu or Giza comes back, then get out of there as quickly as possible. But avoid going outside where the starfish are. Boss, there are a lot of guys coming, Sori said. I'm not sure I can fight off all of them in such a small space. At least not while masking sure not to kill them. Maybe not normally, Izuka said, before opening the other suitcase, revealing some fractals and a chaos emerald. But with these, you just might. Kira didn't like whatever was happening here. First of all, someone woke her up, which already pissed her off, then someone tried to grab her and she sliced them to pieces with her vectors on instinct, so now she'd killed someone again. Great. Not to mention she couldn't see anything because the only source of light was the bits of sunlight peeking through closed blinds, and even those didn't do much to help the visibility because the entire room was covered in fear gas. Although it was strange, apparently this stuff was supposed to cause horrible hallucinations, yet she was just fine so far. What's happening? Why can't I feel anything? Said a voice somewhere that sounded an awful lot like Nee's, which should be impossible given that her mouth hadn't moved and Kira was in control right now. Then she looked over to her left and saw herself looking back at her. Ah, there's the hallucination. Kira groaned. This was gonna suck, to say the least. Why is there another me? Who are you? What did you do to Fuku? Nees asked her rapidly while backing away from her. Kira ignored her. After all, why should she pay any mind to a hallucination? So she started to move her vectors around to dispel the gas while also opening the curtain. Once the sunlight was in and the gas started to disperse, Kira was now fully able to see the room. In front of her was Fuku sitting in the fetal position crying her eyes out quietly. And behind both of them were sliced-up robots dressed in black ninja garb. Oh, thank goodness they're robots. Kira breathed a sigh of relief as Nees ran over to Fuku. Fuku, are you okay? Did they hurt you? It's okay, they're gone now. Nees tried to reassure and comfort her crying friend, however, the girl didn't respond. Fuku, it's okay, they're gone, we're okay. Fuku, it's okay. I got rid of them. Kira said, pretending to be Nees. Huh? Fuku looked up at Kira with a shocked expression. Why, you're not affected by my quirk? I held my breath before it came out. Kira lied. It'd be hard to explain, she had just no idea why Fuku's quirk was affecting her the way that it did. So I'm fine. Oh, thank goodness. Fuku sobbed, feeling like the weight of the world had fallen off her shoulders for a second before remembering something. Wait, what about whoever grabbed me, AP? Fuku jumped over to Kira as she noticed the pile of robot parts behind her. Robots? It seems like someone sent robots to try and kidnap us, Kira said, stating the obvious. Are these ninja robots? Nees said. Cool. How did you know they were robots when you cut them up? Fuku asked her, causing Kira to flinch a bit. I heard the sounds of their robot parts. Nees lied. Oh, that makes sense, Fuku said, immediately believing her. Wait, why can she hear you and not me? Nees asked, waving her hands in front of Fuku's face. Fuku, I'm right here. So, what do we do now? Fuku asked with a very concerned expression. What if everyone else is being attacked too? What do we do? There's no way Kyoku or Kei could fight against robots. Ah, you're right. But what can we do? Nees asked in distress. Neither of us can fight, and we can't open the door with no electricity. Kira had to resist the urge to roll her eyes. It's like she forgets how powerful our quirk is. Scree-ee. Fuku went rigid at the sound of something scratching against her metal door. Scree-ee! 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 Bang! 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 More and more they heard things hit the metal door, and more the two girls started to get nervous. And then the door dented. Without waiting another second, Kira grabbed Fuku with one of her vectors, broke the window with another vector, and then launched herself outside with the other two. Ah, hey! Fuku screamed as the two of them started falling to the ground. Fortunately, she'd already used up all her gas, so her quirk didn't activate. Kira used her vectors to dig into the side of the house, slowing their fall until they could safely reach the bottom. Once they did, Kira immediately used her vectors to start running along the side of the house. Wait, where are we going? Fuku asked in a panic, frantically looking around to see if they were gonna be attacked. Somewhere we can hide, Kira explained. The house isn't safe, and without electricity we can't get into the safe room. So all we can do is find somewhere outside and hide. But the others? Fuku pointed out. I'm sure the bodyguards can handle it, Kira reassured her. Damn it, how did this happen? Sai cursed as she ran through the halls of the house to try and find any of the kids. Scree-ee! Suddenly from around the corner a swarm of robots rushed toward her. They were strange little things. About tall enough to reach past her ankle and built similarly to velociraptors but without the arms, and their entire head was just a big mouth. Both their teeth and claws were razor-sharp and deadly to most people if they got close. Fortunately, Sai didn't have to get close. She opened up a bunch of portals in front of her and unleashed hell, shooting off dozens of swords per second at the ravenous robots. The robots ran into her swords and were torn to shreds, but despite that, the horde didn't hesitate and continued to run straight at her, their numbers never seeming to decrease despite how many she destroyed. Scree-ee! Sai looked behind her and saw another swarm of these robots rushing at her from behind. TCH. Sai then opened up portals behind her and unleashed another hail of swords at them. And so even more of the robots were torn apart by her swords, but despite this, Sai was now stuck in between two massive swarms of robots. Damn it, Sai swore. She could only hope that Tokoshi was having better luck. How many of these damn things are there? Tokoshi asked as he charged through a swarm of seemingly endless tiny robots. They weren't really any threat to him, their attacks couldn't hurt him, and he could destroy them with just one attack. But they were really annoying, as not only did they slow him down a little bit, they even tore up his nice suit. Help! Help us! Please! Tokoshi heard Eri cry from one of the bedrooms nearby. Hold on, Lady Eri. I'm coming. Tokoshi batted a few more robots out of the way and rushed toward the sound of Eri's voice. When he arrived, he found the door to the room had been smashed open, and inside were Eri, Kay, and the baby turtles with a tiger man in front of them. Between them was a force field seemingly being created by the fractal that Eri was holding. Smash! Smash! The Tiger Man smashed his fist into the barrier, making very small cracks with each hit. Sir, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave the premises, Tokoshi said as he crushed the head of a robot with his hand for effect. The Tiger Man turned around and faced him before cracking his knuckles. Make me. Damn it, how did everything go to shit so fast? Aizawa asked as he and Present Mike ran across the corridors of the arena, trying to get outside to help as quickly as possible to help his struggling students. Starfish? Seriously? Who sends a giant fucking starfish to attack you? Who does that? Mike lamented as they ran. I swear if that thing lays a tentacle on the kid, it'll HHH. Suddenly a big red hand burst out from under the floor and grabbed his foot before dragging him to the lower floor. Mike. Aizawa went to go follow Mike down the hole, but before he could, he suddenly felt something hit him on his left, hard, sending him flying. Ag-ew. Aizawa hit the ground and started rolling across the cement floor until he hit a wall. You're not going anywhere, Eraserhead, said a gruff voice. Ag. Aizawa stood up and looked at the source of the voice. There he saw two men. One was a very large dog man, covered in orange and white fur. His right arm was normal-sized, but his left arm was massive. There was probably more mass in that one arm than there was in Aizawa's entire body. And next to him was a very uninterested and tired-looking man in purple pajamas and night shoes with amber hair. We can't let you get in the way of our plans, the tired-looking man said through a yawn. So you're gonna have to die here. Before Aizawa could activate his quirk, suddenly the dog man was in front of him and punched him into the wall so hard it cracked. Ag. Aizawa spat out blood before sliding to the floor, stunned by the blow which likely broke a good amount of his ribs. Nighty-nighty, Racerhead. The dog man smirked as he raised up his massive arm, ready to deliver a devastating blow. Peace change. Suddenly, one of the smoke bombs on Aizawa's belt was thrown directly into the dogman's face, stunning him and covering the area in smoke. Shit! The dogman bellowed as he stumbled backward. Ack! Aizawa managed to get himself together and move over to the side. Mr. Aizawa, said Mu's voice in a whisper. That voice, a kid? Aizawa looked around, but despite the voice sounding so close, he couldn't see anyone. The one in the back can freeze you by looking at you, Mu explained. And then the other one attacks you. That explains his teleporting, Aizawa whispered. But that doesn't make this much less of a pain in the ass. Yeah, hi. Suddenly the building shook a bit as President Mick's voice could be heard echoing throughout the halls. Shit. Looks like Mick's still fighting down below. Aizawa swore. He's fighting Vlad King, Mu explained. Or at least he was. Vlad's tough, he'll live. Aizawa shrugged. But that means Mike should be back up here soon. I just need to wait, kid. Can you tell Mike about the situation so he doesn't come up here blind? Okay, goodbye, Mu said, heading off to do as he was instructed. I hate having to rely on kids like that, but right now I don't have a choice, Aizawa muttered to himself. Smash! Come out, Eraserhead. You can't hide forever. The dogman shouted as he smashed the ground. Not forever. But hopefully my smoke bombs can let me hide just enough. Aizawa thought. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX of different answers, depending on her mood. None of those answers would have been mind-controlling starfish would fall out of the sky and make her fight her classmates to the death. Achiko dodged Kurishima's attack and kicked him in the back, sending her mind-controlled friend flying. Before she could even catch her breath, she heard someone approaching her, and once she turned around, she saw that her next opponent would be a mind-controlled Fat Gum. Achiko rushed forward, dodging Fat Gum's punch and then touching him, taking away his gravity and throwing him helplessly into the sky. But while she doing that, it left her open for another attack. Pwem! Ack! Achiko cried out in pain as she got hit in the back by one of Aoyama's blasts, distracting her enough for Ida to rush her and kick her in the stomach, sending her flying onto her back. Ah! Gah! Achiko tried to pull herself up only for one of Pony's horns to fly down and stab her in the leg, pinning her down. Ahe! Without missing a beat, a mind-controlled Shoji extended one of his arms towards Achiko with a starfish in his hand, ready to add them to their forces. Kaboom! Until Bakugo swooped in and hit Shoji with an explosion, knocking him away from Achiko. What the hell are you doing, roundface? Bakugo snapped as he landed on the battleground. Get the hell up. The last thing we need is you going berserk on top of all this. Ack, not like I was trying to get mind-controlled. Achiko spat as she pulled the horn out of her leg. She tried to stand up and nearly fell back down again from the overwhelming pain. Crap. She might have hit bone. Speaking of Pony, she sent a barrage of horns at Achiko, who had no chance of dodging with her injured leg. Fortunately, she didn't have to, as a wall of ice came between her and the horns, blocking them from hitting her. We're going to get overwhelmed, Shoto said as he rushed to Achiko's side, using his fire to clean her wound and his ice to patch it up. This isn't going to end until we take out that big starfish. Hiya, MT Lady cried as gave Starro another punch to the eye. Ree! Starro cried before using one of its arms to grab onto MT Lady's arm. Fuck. Let go, you gross bastard. MT Lady tried to pull her arm away, but Starro's suction cups kept her in its grasp. Well, someone needs to help MT Tits over there because she ain't doing much on her own. Bakugo shouted as he exploded away a group of students. Whoosh. Suddenly a jet of flames came down from above and burnt off the arm that was touching MT Lady. Ah yeah? Time to feel the burn. Netsa shouted as he descended down near MT Lady's head. A kid? MT Lady looked at Netsu in confusion. She had half the mind to tell him to fly off, given that he was a kid after all. However, seeing as the situation was rather dire, she decided to just go with it. Whatever, I don't care anymore. Could blow a hole in that thing, I will personally take care of whatever fine you get. Neat. Netsu's face broke into a wicked grin as he started charging his quirk. Time to send you to heck, Starface. As heat built up around Netsu, Starro took notice and knew it had to take action. Take this. Inferno Cannon. Netsu unleashed a massive blast of fire right at Starro's eye, intent on blowing a hole right through the middle of it. Whoosh. But the blast never hit its target as a mind-controlled Cementos put up a thick wall of cement between Starro and the attack. Damn it. MT Lady cursed as she looked at the partially melted wall. Pum. Ahi. Suddenly one of Aoyama's charged shots blasted Netsu out of the air, causing him to start falling to the ground. Shit! MT Lady swore as she put her hand under Netsu, catching him before he could fall very far and burning her hand each second she held him. Ow, 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 crap. Bang, bang, bang. Ag. MT Lady was suddenly shot in the eyes by a mind-controlled snipe who started unloading his clip into her face. Ow. Shit. Cut that out. MT Lady covered her face with her other hand to block the attacks, but the attacks didn't let up. Death arms threw chunks of the arena at her. Koda sent birds to peck at her face. Shota from Class B used his quirk to throw things at her. And Juzo softened the ground under her, causing her to start sinking. We need to get the focus off MT Lady, Achiko said as she dodged attacks from Kirishima and Tetsutisu. Easier said than done, round face. Bakugo shouted as he blew away Sato, only for Ida to charge in and kick him in the stomach. Ack! Damn it, glasses. We're getting pushed back, Todoroki pointed out as Kendo and Shishida broke through his ice. There's too many of them. Achiko looked at the waves of her classmates surrounding them, not to mention all the innocent people under the villain's control. Meanwhile, MT Lady was being barraged with attacks while hiding Netsu in her hand. If he even tried to exit her palm, then he'd also get bombarded with attacks. Something had to give, otherwise they'd be done for. Momo was running on fumes. She'd managed to lead the remaining civilians to the exit, but the exit was sealed behind a wall of cement, meaning they were all just stuck in a corner. Bam! 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 She'd created multiple net cannons to shoot out at the crowd of mind-controlled people that were charging at them, but she was quickly running out of fat to create ammo. Jiro was doing all she could, using her sonic waves to knock back their attackers, but she could only hit them so hard and there were just so many. We need to get that exit open, Jiro shouted as she knocked back more attackers. We can't stay here. Momo looked at the exit. The only way I could get that open is with an explosion, but there are too many people around. Slam! Suddenly, a mind-controlled gang orca crashed into the ground in front of Jiro, looming threateningly over the purple-haired girl. Jiro only had time to look at the hero with fear-filled eyes before gang orca backhanded her, sending her flying to the right into a crowd of mind-controlled people. Jiro! Momo shouted in panic and fear as the mind-controlled people grabbed Jiro and gang orca walked over to her and raised his fist to land a finishing blow. Shing! Suddenly, a bullet soared down from above and hit the starfish on gang orca's face. Gang orca froze for a second and the starfish fell off his face. Ha! Gang orca stumbles back for a second, very confused as to what just happened and where he was. Then, Sanson came in, slithering between the legs of the mind-controlled masses and grabbed Jiro from out of their clutches before bringing her towards Momo and the others. The mind-controlled crowd tried to follow, but then Ken dropped down as heat blast and shot out fire, creating a flaming wall between them. As Jiro was taking over to Momo, Izuku dropped down with his firearm in hand. Are you two okay? He asked, looking over them to see if they had any major injuries. Midoriya, what are you doing? Momo asked, taking control of the situation. Izuku summed up. Ken, melt a hole in that wall. Sanson, keep the masses back. You two, get everyone to the safest places you can find inside. With that, Izuku promptly turned around and started running, Sanson creating a path by pushing aside anyone close to him. Where's he going? Jiro asked, wondering what was going through Izuku's brain. If I had to guess, Momo looked at the now-freed gang orca, who was using his strength to push aside the mind-controlled civilians. It has something to do with that. Meanwhile, at the very top of the arena, in one of the corners, was a woman in a black skin-tight suit with pale white skin and red eyes. Shinigami, report. What is the status of the battle at UA? Asked Karai through her earpiece. Nothing of significance has happened, Shinigami said with a sigh. Midoriya Izuku is still alive and well, as are all the students and heroes. But they are being overwhelmed. And what about the rat? Karai asked. No sign of him anywhere, Shinigami reported. Damn. What about the Midoriya children? Have we acquired any of them yet? Karai asked. Shinigami cringed. About that, all the soldiers we sent to attack them have been defeated. What? How is that possible? We sent hundreds of our best men. Karai shouted in shock and outrage. What happened? I haven't been able to figure that out because I'm stuck out here, maintaining the illusion and keeping the other heroes ignorant of the situation. Shinigami explained. However, one of them managed to report something a second before he was taken out. Something about an invisible monster. Invisible monster, we don't have any reports of the Midoriya Foundation owning something like that. Karai mused. Either way, our main priority is that rat and the death of Midoriya Izuku. I'm sending more men now. I'll also be sending IT to take care of that monster. Very well. Shinigami was about to ask how things were going over at the Midoriya Foundation grounds when she felt a presence approaching. I apologize, there is someone I have to take care of. As Shinigami ended her transmission, she heard someone land behind her and immediately threw a kunai at them. Boing! The kunai bounced off of thin air, and the gentle criminal was unharmed as he glared fiercely at his opponent. I suppose you must be the reason why no heroes have noticed this commotion yet, Gentle said. And what if I am? Shinigami asked. Boing! Gentle wasted no another word and immediately made the air behind his elastic before bouncing off of it and heading towards Shinigami at alarming speeds. Shinigami readied herself for his frontal attack, but just as Gentle was in front of her, with a bit of maneuvering and use of his quirk, he rebounded over and behind her before kicking her in the back into some elastic air, bouncing her back towards him, where he then kicked her to the side, sending her rolling across the floor. As she rolled, Shinigami got to her feet and slid to a stop. Not half bad, it seems you're more skilled than expected, Gentle criminal. Although I could have sworn you said you didn't like violence. I don't, Gentle said, with a dark look on his face that would make most people shiver. However, one of your starfish landed on the face of my dear La Brava and now she has lost control of herself. If the only way to get her back is to put an end to this farce, then so be it. I will not show you a shred of mercy. Fighting for love, how touching. Shinigami mocked as she got into a fighting stance. Unfortunately, this isn't a fairy tale, so the power of love won't save you. I'll be ending your life here and now. He'd never failed a mission before and had no intention of starting now. Regardless of how strong his enemy was or how well guarded they were, he'd always prevailed through some method. But the Midoriya Foundation was another beast entirely. The moment he got here through one of Kurogiri's portals, he was immediately confronted with 2 giant apes and a giant vent snake. They weren't very tough, but it was bizarre. Then, when he found the turtles he was tasked with getting back, guarded only by 2 little girls, he thought this would be easy. Now he was aware of both their quirks, but he'd already planned ways to deal with them if he had to. Namely his gun. But what he wasn't prepared for was for the white-haired girl to pull out a crystal and put up a force field. Because who would expect that? Who would prepare for that? But he didn't have much time to figure out a way around it as one of the butlers came in to fight him. Now normally that wouldn't be a problem, except this guy was just fucking invincible apparently. Tiger Claw let loose in a flurry of blows at all of Tokoshi's vital points. But if they bothered Tokoshi at all, he didn't show it, as the man simply looked down at his opponent unimpressed. Tokoshi then raised his hand and backhanded Tiger Claw in the side of the face, sending him flying through several walls until he ended up outside and fell into the grass and dirt below. Ugh! Tiger Claw landed on his back and shook his head to get rid of the pain and dizziness. Damn, that old man is far stronger than he looks. And my attacks can't even make him flinch. As he got up, he heard something step on the grass behind him, close, about 2 feet away. Tiger Claw immediately roundhouse kicked whatever it was behind him, hitting something and knocking it back. The hound became visible and its claws dug into the ground, stopping itself before it could go very far away from its target. It opened its mouth and let out a stream of fire heading right toward Tiger Claw. In response, Tiger Claw jumped to the side of the house and dodged the attack before running across the wall, getting closer to the hound and then leaping at it, claws first. Tiger Claw pounced onto the hound, grabbing it by its shoulders and biting into its neck, destroying most of it, but this was not nearly enough to stop the hound. The hound grew bone around that area in its neck, locking Tiger Claw's fangs in its throat before growing a pair of wings. Tiger Claw's eyes went wide and he quickly realized how dangerous the situation just became as he and the hound lifted into the air. He dug his claws into the bone around his teeth, trying to tear away at it to free himself, but every time he scratched it, it rapidly regenerated. Eventually, he managed to kind of wiggle his teeth out of the hound's neck, but just as he freed himself, the hound started glowing. Kaboom! Karai looked over the Midoriya Foundation lab, looking over it to see what methods of infiltration were available. It seemed simple, but she knew the place had to have Grim hidden somewhere. Before she could make her move, however, suddenly she got a message in her earpiece. "This is Tiger Claw, I'm retreating," Tiger Claw said, sounding absolutely pissed. "That's unlike you, what's the cause?" Karai asked. She wasn't exactly pleased about that, but she knew if Tiger Claw was retreating there must be a good reason. The cause would be me exploding out of the sky and falling 6 stories. Tiger Claw hissed. "Not to mention this whole mission is going south. The butler is practically invincible to our attacks and the mousers can only hold off the other one for so much longer. Not to mention some of the children have started fighting back as well. I see. Damn, it seems we severely underestimated Midoriya. Karai swore. Fine, leave. I'll be on my way after inspecting the lab and taking care of this. Karai jumped down from the tree she was hiding in just as a hound dropped down, crashing through the tree on all fours. Without hesitation, Karai charged toward the Grim, which let out a stream of flames at her in response. Karai jumped over the flames and onto the hound's back. Then she transformed her hand into a snake and bit into the Grim's back, injecting its venom into it at a rapid pace. However, the hound seemed unbothered, turning its head back to face Karai before letting out another jet of flames. Karai managed to jump off in time, leaping into the air and landing a few yards in front of the hound. The hound turned its head back at her before looking up. Awulu. It's calling for help. I wanted to stick around and see if my poison eventually kicked in, but it seems like I'll just have to conclude that it doesn't. Karai thought to herself before jumping away onto one of the trees and attempting to flee. The Midoriya Foundation attack is a failure, requesting immediate retrieval. Awulu. Karai looked back and saw the hound following her, flying through the air to chase her down. How annoyingly persistent. Fortunately, Kurogyri had already opened a portal just a few feet in front of her, thanks to her positional locator. Father won't be pleased about this. Karai thought as she leapt into the portal, leaving the Foundation grounds as the portal closed behind her. Dink, 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 dink. Achiko, Todoroki, and Bakugo sat in an ice dome created by Todoroki, trying to catch their breaths. Bakugo's arms were sore, Todoroki was using his flames to fight off his frostbite, and Achiko was only still standing thanks to the adrenaline. And all of them were covered head to toe in wounds. Where the fuck are all the other heroes? Bakugo shouted. Haven't they seen the giant fucking starfish yet? The villains are likely doing something to keep them from noticing. Todoroki speculated. Otherwise All Might would have already taken care of this. Which means we can't rely on outside help. Achiko pointed out, looking rather frightened as the ice dome cracked around them. I think maybe the best thing would be for one of us to go get help. Damn it, you might be right. Bakugo begrudgingly agreed. Round face, you get out of here, me and Icy Hot will cover for you. That'd be for best, you're the fastest one here and the one in most need of medical help. Todoroki agreed. Achiko wanted to argue, after all, she'd hate to leave her friends when they were under the villain's control, but she knew they were right and arguing would only endanger them further. Okay, when dash. Smash. The mind-controlled Tetsu smashed through the ice, surrounded by Shishida, Sato, and Shoji. Bakugo got ready to unleash a hell of an explosion to blow all of them back and give room for Achiko to escape, but before he could charge forward. Hey, over here! Shouted Izuku off to the side. The mind-controlled students looked over and they were suddenly shot, the bullets getting lodged into the starfish on their faces, which promptly fell off. Ha! The now freed students sported confused looks as they didn't know how they got here or what just happened. What? The three students in the dome looked at the freed students in shock before Achiko rushed out of the dome. When she got out, she was Izuku standing on top of the dome, shooting down at the starfish on the students' faces, while some of the now freed students and heroes such as Mineta, Ibara, Death Arms, Cementos, and Kaminari kept him safe. Izuku! Achiko shouted in surprise. Out of all the people she expected to come to save them, Izuku was not one of them, maybe one of his kids, but not the green-haired teen himself. Nor did she expect him to be wielding a gun. Achiko! Izuku gave the girl a look of relief and slid down the dome to meet her. I'm so glad you're not mind-controlled. Wait, what happened to your leg? I got stabbed, but I'll be fine, Achiko reassured him with a forced smile, but Izuku was having none of it. Izuku then pulled a fractal from his sleeve and offered it to Achiko. Take this and try using it like an extension of your quirk. Achiko was confused but didn't question it and quickly grabbed onto the crystal before doing as instructed. Suddenly, the fractal started to glow white and that white glow spread over Achiko's body. Her wounds started to close up and she could feel the pain and fatigue quickly fade away until she was fully healed and rejuvenated in only a few seconds. Ha! Achiko looked over her body in disbelief. What the heck was that? It's a long story, for now just focus on the fight. Izuku told her. Get that crystal to Kaken and Todoroki then act. Suddenly he was shot in the side of the head by Snipe. Fortunately his cloak stopped most of the damage, but Izuku was knocked down to the ground. Ah, someone needs to deal with Snipe. Izuku ordered. Is there anyone who can take care of him? I'll get him. Tetsu shouted. Someone give me a boost. On it. Sato picked him up and threw Tetsu towards Snipe as hard as he could, sending him flying toward the mind-controlled hero. The mind-controlled Snipe tried to shoot Tetsu out of the air, but the boy's metal body blocked every attack and he collided with Snipe, tackling him into the wall and holding him there. All right, Netsu. The sky is clear. Izuka shouted. Yeah. Netsu shouted as he jumped out of MT Lady's hand and soared into the air. Time for some fried starfish. Netsu started charging up his quirk, ready to unleash a massive attack at Starro. Starro once again knew he was in trouble, but he didn't have any minions left that could stop this. So it did the only thing it could. Starro stretched out one of its arms, touching part of the arena before lifting it up with its suction cup and smashing it into MT Lady's face. Ah! MT Lady fell as the piece smashed against her face, and then Starro jumped on top of her, pinning her to the ground. Ah! Get off, you stupid! Netsu looked down with wide eyes and stopped his charging, knowing now if he tried to blow a hole through Starro, MT Lady would get caught in the blast. Oh! Guys, I can't fire. Damn it! Death Arms shouted, we need to get that thing off MT Lady. Of course, that was easier said than done. No one had the power to lift something so massive off of her, and any attack that could significantly harm it would hit her as well. No, it's too risky. Izuka shouted as he shot another starfish off someone. I have another plan, we just need to hold off the people until it's done. Everyone, get ready. Damn it. Shinigami shouted as she threw a kunai at Gentle. Gentle, reflect. Gentle called out as he bounced the kunai away, hitting some more elastic air until it was headed right back toward Shinigami. She narrowly dodged it, but unfortunately for her, she was pretty much surrounded by invisible trampolines that not only restricted her movement but also reflected attacks. The kunai she dodged bounced around her, forcing her to dodge it again and again. It managed to actually cut her cheek before getting lodged into the ground. I can't attack from afar and I can't get close enough to attack. Damn it, I can't win this without my quirk. Shinigami thought before pressing down on her earpiece. I've got a situation, I can't beat my opponent without my quirk. But I can't fight him and keep up the illusion at the same time. I'll hold out for as long as I can, but we need to hurry. Curses. Karai swore. This whole operation is going right to hell. What the hell is taking that damn mutant so long to get to those kids? Giza casually strolled back to the room where the children were held up, walking past what one might mistake for a massacre. The unconscious bodies of hundreds of ninjas littered the halls, so numerous that Giza had to walk on top of the bodies to get through. It seems that Sori had some fun. After getting a bit farther, he found Sori sitting in the remains of something. There were bits of flesh and guts thrown around a blood-filled hall, and Sori seemed to be trying to clean the blood off her. Mind explaining what this was? Giza asked her. You know, I don't really know. Some kinda animal. Wasn't very strong though. Sori responded, not even looking at him. This gem is no joke, I feel like I could fight All Might with this thing. I see. In that case, go assist Midoriya, I will escort the children outside. Giza told her. I have already found an exit. Neat. Let's see if this is more fun. Sori smirked. And then she vanished in a gust of wind, moving so fast that Giza couldn't even perceive her movement. Now then, I must hurry, Giza said to himself. I have something to take care of after all. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, share the video, and support the original writer. See you in the next video.